This is Kyiv, Ukraine, one of Europe's largest cities, with a population of nearly 3 million. It's known for its beautiful churches and rich history. However, the Kyiv region has also suffered major environmental disasters. Most famously, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986 devastated the region's environment, and Kyiv now suffers some of the worst air pollution of any capital city in Europe. But little is known about the ecological threats posed by this abandoned factory in Kyiv's left bank. This is Fabrika Radikal, once a top-secret Soviet factory, and it's been poisoning Kyiv with toxic waste for decades.
People, said that there is a joke about this place, that there is like that place or a second Chernobyl.
Meet Valeria Kovac, environmental expert and senior researcher at the Institute of Environmental Geochemistry of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. She's been monitoring Radikal for nearly 9 years.
Not so many people know about this plant Radikal and its work. This plant started working in 1949 and it was actually classified because everything what was done here was for military purpose. In their technological process, they were using a lot of mercury, sometimes for simultaneously 200 tons.
Fabrika Radikal was closed in 1996, but hundreds of tons of mercury remain.
So for 42 years of work of this plant, losses of mercury is about like 700 tons.
When the plant officially opened in 1951, it was in an industrial zone at least 10 kilometers from central Kyiv. Since then, Kyiv has expanded, and the Radikal is now surrounded by a growing urban center. The plant sits within a short walking distance of Lisova metro station and residential areas, and it neighbors one of Kyiv's largest shopping centers and a popular outdoor venue for festivals and large gatherings. Situated at the heart of an industrial zone, Radikal is encircled by businesses, some of which now operate in buildings once belonging to the polluted chemical factory. Workers in the area spend their days only meters away from exposed toxic chemicals, and mercury contamination is a major threat to public health.
The most important here is like actually the life of people. Yes, every day they are breathing here. Visiting once, it's not a long time exposure, yes, but people who are living here, and especially it's dangerous for kids, like this evaporation of mercury, yes, mercury vapors, for kids and for women. And the worst are for pregnant women.
Some local employees have been working nearby for many years. Others are just starting.
Эти еще здания не разваленные были, где именно ртутные ванны стояли. Вот, оно развалено не было. Ну тут ртути было разлито, вот так хлопнул и капли в разные стороны разлеталось.
Тут все доступ, тут воно все тут осталось. Поки, якщо сухо, то не чувствується. А от коли риють якусь траншею на дощ, от тоді всі запахи міра, все тут.
Эту ртуть никак оттуда не вытащишь особо. Она залегла под землю и все. Я не уверен, что она кроме как на грунт ни на что и не влияет, потому что она под землей, и она не будет так сильно испаряться.
In fact, the greatest potential threat to the environment lies buried beneath the surface at Radikal.
When we are talking about general plan of demercurization, yes, we need to take into the consideration groundwaters, and also to provide a monitoring, and to see whether some contamination flows into the Dnieper River, because it's an environmental catastrophe.
So why hasn't this situation been cleaned up yet? Valeria Kovac shares two of the main reasons.
Here in Ukraine, we don't have any enterprise that is available, to dispose these wastes. So it should go outside the country 100%. So, and also 100% that local budget of Kyiv, they don't have such money.
Until 2014, mercury and other chemicals could be disposed of at the plant Mokhyt-Rtut, also known as the Mokhytovsky Mercury Plant, in Ukraine's Donbas region. But the war in eastern Ukraine left Mokhyt-Rtut on territory now controlled by the so-called Donetsk People's Republic. Roman Tkachuk, head of the Emergency Management Department at Kyiv City Council, explains how this impacts demercurization at Radikal.
Ми розраховуємо, що таких залишків забруднених ртуттю десь близько 200 тисяч тонн. Керівництво міста з 2015 року веде постійну роботу щодо ліквідації цієї надзвичайної ситуації. Але ж на даний час ми не маємо місця. Ми не знаємо, де і куди ми можемо це вивезти. Це найголовніше питання.
Without Mokhyt-Rtut, mercury must be sent abroad for disposal. But sending the chemicals abroad not only complicates the process, it also greatly increases costs, and that's something the Kyiv city budget cannot afford. This is Kirilo Kasaurov, chairman of the board at the Association of Businesses in the Management of Hazardous Waste.
Основна проблема – це відсутність фінансування. Є проекти, є організації, які готові зайти і зробити, перебрати цей радикал. Там бюджет, наскільки мені інформували мене, десь 2 чи 3 мільярди гривень, і цю ділянку можна повністю знезаразити, знешкодити, зібрати всю ртуть і повернути її, скажімо так, містянам. А зараз таких коштів немає і, на жаль, ніхто цим не займається.
Even if Ukraine had the facilities and the funding, nothing could be done without first conducting further testing.
We need to look at the problem in complex, to get this data, to analyze, to make a good mitigation plan. After that, coordinate with international specialists who did already this work, who did actually cleanups of such sites.
But getting the funding for further testing can be a bureaucratic nightmare. Funding for a Kyiv City Council study into solutions to clean up Radikal was recently blocked.
Ми, як управління екології, у нас є екологічний фонд. Уже в цьому році ми знову намагаємось передати кошти на ці проєктні роботи, але Антимонопольний комітет України прийняв рішення, що це неприпустима державна допомога, оскільки ВАТ «Радикал» на сьогоднішній день ще не ліквідовано. Ми постійно проводимо роботу з Антимонопольним комітетом. Ми поновлюємо ці звернення, пояснюємо, що це екологічна така складова, і треба її вирішити для того, щоб не забруднювати надалі місто, ґрунти і, власне, мешканців прилеглих територій, в тому числі всього міста Києва. Але на сьогоднішній день поки що нам не вдалося переконати Антимонопольний комітет, що це роботи що фінансування цих робіт не для того, щоб допомогти приватному підприємству ВАТ «Радикал», що ліквідовується, а ці роботи проводяться для того, щоб ліквідувати дійсно екологічну проблему.
Despite the bureaucratic holdup, the government claims to have a plan to clean up Radikal.
They are promising till 2025. The biggest part of the cleanup is going to be done, hopefully. We'll see how they're going to proceed. But after that, it's also monitoring. Every time, in case in each step you're making monitoring, after that it's easy to see what changed, in what way it's changed.
Much work remains if the government wants to meet its 2025 deadline. And the longer toxic chemicals are allowed to remain at Radikal, the greater threat they pose to public health, the city of Kyiv, and to Ukraine's overall environmental security.